We are, from Hmong American Peace Academy, HAPA, and the senior class of 2025. We're so excited to present to you why we think Hmong education and curriculum matters, especially here in the state of Wisconsin, and since Act 266 has been passed. Today, we are looking at hoping to create a new inspiration and hope for the future of Hmong history and the Hmong community. We're hoping to put together this presentation to give you some insight on the Hmong culture, Hmong history, the journey towards the American dream. And we hope that through this presentation, you will be inspired to go out into your own communities, reach out to teachers and other big stakeholders, and also advocate with us and be our partners in the process of getting Hmong history taught here and into our schools. We hope that Hmong history and culture will be taught with authenticity and with love and with respect, and that's all we're here to ask for, because we believe that we live here in this state, we contribute to the state, our families have lived here for many, many generations. Since the very beginning of when Hmong people resettled here in America, we've been here in Wisconsin, and it's a long time coming, and it's a long time due to who these kids are and who their parents are and their grandparents. We hope that through this presentation that you will walk away with some knowledge of our basic culture, as well as some knowledge of and key understandings of our historical journey. Of course, we won't hit on every single thing, but we hope that you will see why we matter here. And we hope that you will see that we will continue to matter, and we will push ourselves to be present and to advocate for our importance in this state. I will introduce Jaya Lee to talk about exactly what the students will talk about next.
Hello everyone, my name is Jaya Lee, and we will begin with who the Hmong are, followed by the historical context of the Hmong people. Continued with some resources we thought that should be put into the curriculums, and then we'll have a student panel. And we will end it off with some Hmong cuisines. I would like to introduce our next speaker, John Tao, to begin our presentations.
Hi everybody, my name is John Tao, and I'll be talking about who the Hmong people are. First, I would like to start off by saying that we prefer the term Hmong rather than Miao. Miao is a derogatory term used by the Chinese government and others to put various ethnic groups, such as the Hmong people, into one category. There are core aspects that are important to our identity and culture, and those are things that makes us unique. Next, I would also like to say that we use two main dialects, which is Hmong Green and Hmong White. The difference between these two is that both are spoken differently, while Hmong White is said frequently more than Hmong Green. Now here is a picture of where the Hmong people originated from, which is the Yellow River Valley in China, thousands years ago. So Hmong people they lived in mountains, and they depended on agricultural lifestyle while living in houses that were made out of bamboo and woods. Now, speaking of agriculture was something that was very prevalent in Hmong people's life every day, as they would spend hours using tools such as the garden hoe or the woven basket right here to carry crops and food to their families. Now next, shamanism, the religion that Hmong people focus on, is prevalent in everyday life as it serves purpose in healing the community and protecting the ones in the community as well. As in this picture right here, it shows a great example of the Oning going on, shamanism practice, where you have somebody on a brown chair right here shouting out chants so that they could talk to the spirit of the person who is ill. Now, these two are two of the basic key cultural understandings that makes the Hmong people unique. And I would like to introduce Ruby Hurd, who will be talking about the Hmong traditions and celebrations.
Hello everybody, my name is Ruby Hurd, and I am super excited to be here today to tell you a little bit more about our key traditions and celebrations in the Hmong culture. Starting off with the Hmong New Year, also known as Na Big Gyal, it is a perfect time to preserve our culture, honor our ancestors, and give a little thanks for the completion of our yearly harvest. It is also a prime time for courtship and to show off our unique and beautiful Hmong outfits. You guys are in for a treat because we have a few of our scholars who will show off some of their favorite pieces. First, we have Kenji Vang wearing a Hmong Del outfit, Chi Meng Chu wearing a Hmong Via outfit, Jail Lee wearing a Hmong Stripes outfit, Natalie Yang wearing a more modern Hmong outfit, Emma Lee wearing a Hmong Via outfit, Kimberly Vang wearing a Hmong Del outfit, Geneva Bonfanso wearing a Hmong Ling outfit, and Kaylee Her wearing a Hmong Del outfit. Thank you to our models. I will now be moving on to our Hmong weddings. Hmong weddings are a time and event that unites both the groom, bride, and their families to continue the clan surname. With Hmong weddings, we have childbirth. Childbirth is the vessel for reincarnated ancestors, and it must be done in silent. As you guys see from our models coming up, we like to carry our children and newborns in what we call a baby carrier. Furthermore, spirit-specific rituals must be done in order to ensure that our children and kids are born healthily and holy. Finally, we will be moving on to Hmong funerals. Hmong funerals are guides that help our spirits move to reincarnation. Our souls cycle through genders and clans. Now I will be introducing my friend Tyson Pa, who will tell you a little bit more about the clan structures and systems.
Thank you very much, Ruby. Hello, everyone. My name is Tyson Pa. Good afternoon. Hmong clan systems were originated through Hmong traditions and Hmong history. However, regardless of all the Hmong folktales that there are out there describing how the Hmong community clan structures came to be about, one of the rules and practices inside of the Hmong clan systems include marriage, which is not marrying another individual with the same last name as yours. For example, a Lee may not marry another Lee. This is considered taboo. Another rule includes the father passing down his surname to his children's. In other words, the children's will inherit their father's last name and be a part of that clan. Inside of these clans are many individuals who share a deep bond, almost family, regardless of all blood relation. Here are the 18 Hmong clan names, with the highlighted portions being the 12 original clans. Back in Laos, we have many leaders, and also here in the United States. However, in Laos, our clan leaders talk about disputes of land itself and planned community events. Here in America, our clan leaders discuss about community events such as nonprofit organizations and community rights. Traditional and professional clan leaders depict on between professionals and traditionals through professionals being more polite, open-minded, and more patient, while traditional clan leaders are more direct, assertive, and have more custom traditional backgrounds. I'll now pass the mic to Lydia Tao, who will discuss about the Hmong clan system, the Hmong community before the Secret War.
Hello everyone, my name is Lydia Tao, and I will be starting us off with the overview of the historical understandings of the Hmong, which we will be using the Secret War as our pivotal point. I will be beginning us with the Hmong history before the war. As we mentioned earlier, the Hmong people had inhabited regions of China, and due to differences in cultural and traditional beliefs, the two communities faced conflict. As a result, the Hmong were persecuted for their cultural beliefs, and in the late 1700s to the mid-1800s, the Hmong had fled from persecution, in which they resettled in other areas of the Southeast Asian region, such as the mountaintops of Burma, Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam. I will now be discussing the French colonization of the Hmong. In 1893, Laos had become a colony of France, in which the French had marched up those mountaintops and approached the Hmong people with high taxes. After 3 years of this control, the Hmong people had decided that they had enough. Leader Pa Che-vu had led a rebellion against the French people which lasted for 4 years. After these 4 years, the Hmong people unfortunately lost, but they gained recognition and respect from the French for their might and resilience. The French had also recognized their role in being important to their success in the Pacific trade. Decades later, after World War II, the French had decided to reassert their control over Laos once again, and this time when the Hmong rebelled, the French left for good. In this picture, we can see Hmong soldiers posing with a French soldier around the time that World War II happened. The reason why we decided to mention the Hmong history before the war is because we wanted to give recognition to the Hmong people as one of the oldest civilizations and in their role in international history. We know that the Secret War had played a pivotal role in Hmong history, but we wanted to emphasize that the Hmong people are more than just refugees of war and of people who do not have a country. I will now be handing it to my peer, Ava Lohr.
All right, thank you, Lydia. Now I'll be continuing on to the historical understanding of Hmong in the Secret War. So first we have a video interview that I conducted with my grandfather. This is to serve a real perspective of a Hmong soldier during the Secret War during the early 1960s to 1975. And so Captain Che Nu Heng, he is one of the many respectable soldiers that fought in the war to protect the future of today's generation. And so we will let him speak for himself in this video.
Thank you for watching the interview with Ava's relative. And now is to talk more in great detail in the content of the Secret War. And now, you may be familiar of the Vietnam War that happened in 1955 and happened afterwards. But the Secret War was a hidden secret CIA operation in Laos, where they decided to recruit the Hmong people. And they recruited the Hmong people because communism was a threat to their state of living, their state and quality of life. And since they shared those common goals, they decided to work together. And this military recruited among soldiers, a general was Paul Vang. But as you already know, that a lot of these soldiers were really talented. So a lot of them were recruited as U.S. air pilots. And they were the ones that flew these planes to help support the U.S. soldiers. But as time went on into the eventual end, in 1975, we saw that the United States unfortunately lost the Vietnam War. And this is when the United States had to retreat all their soldiers. But the end of this war does not mean the end of the Hmong community and their history. Because as you will soon see, explained by my partner Banjai, that even though this was a central point of our history, it does not mean that we should be focusing on the unfortunate events where we categorize the Hmong people as unfortunate refugees, like Lydia once said. But as my partner is going to explain, the Hmong people have overcome hardship, persevered through many obstacles and challenges, so they can give us a better opportunity and to give us a better future for the next generation. So please, let me welcome Banjai.
Thank you, Andrew. Now we'll be talking about the historical understandings of our resettlement. As mentioned before, my name is Banjai Ving, and the Hmong fled to Thai refugee camps after the Secret War. While the Thai government supported us for many years, they ultimately decided that it was best for us to immigrate to America. With their help, we were able to come to America. My mom, Kajo Thao, was not a refugee, but she did immigrate directly from Laos to America. So I thought it'd be great to share her story. Please enjoy this interview with my mom. Thank you for watching the video, everyone. Now we'll be handing off to Dechia King, who will provide more insight about Hmong refugee life.
Hello everyone, my name is Dechia King and I will be speaking on what refugee camps were like for the Hmong. So this began shortly after the Hmong had lost the Secret War, and so the United States had retreated back to America, but had also brought along Hmong people with them. And while this was amazing, the remaining Hmong people in Laos had to find a way to be safe. And through this, they had to cross the Mekong River. And with the Mekong River, it was very dangerous. It was a very dangerous journey, and yet the Hmong still had to persevere and still push through. And the reason why this is so crucial is because this moment in our Hmong history is so important because many lives were lost while crossing the Mekong River, and yet the Hmong people who were crossing the river still had to look forward. They still had to push themselves and for the future generation. And once they arrived in Thailand, they were put into refugee camps. And these refugee camps were large, yet overcrowded. And when arriving in these refugee camps, many Hmong people were trying to look for their family members, but there was no way of knowing if they were still alive. That is why it was so heartbreaking. But even so, the Hmong people still went through and they still found a way to survive in these refugee camps. And the refugee camps provided basic necessities, such as water, land, food, and most importantly, shelter. And now that the Hmong had finally settled down, they thought that they were okay. That was until in year 1997, Thailand had officially disbanded and closed its last refugee camp in Ban Vinai. And so now the Hmong people were back to its original state. They had to seek land and had to find a way back. And so they had three choices: to go back to Laos or go back to Thailand, or stay in Thailand illegally. But now here came the other option. The Hmong people had found out that they remembered the promise that the United States CIA had made to them. They said that even if the Hmong people had lost the war, they would take care of the Hmong people. And this promise stood out to the Hmong people. And with that, many processes came where Hmong people were trying to immigrate to the United States. And the most common form of immigrating was through sponsorships. Now, sponsorships came from many organizations or churches. And once the Hmong people had arrived in America, they settled down. And of course, this was a new country to them. Their new culture and customs, but the Hmong people still persevered. But that was not without any difficulties. Former official Lao official, during the Secret War, Dal Yang expressed in an NPR interview that Americans considered the Hmong to be illiterate and to be people living in the hills that could not survive and could not adapt in modern American life. And yet we have proved them wrong. We Hmong people are standing before you guys to express that we have achieved many things. And next year, in year 2025, marks our 50th anniversary of the Hmong people settling in the United States. And of course, this does not come without any struggles that we faced in the beginning. So I would like to pass the mic on to my friend Fuchi.
Thank you, Deichia. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fuki Christopher Yang, and for my slide, I'm going to speak about the struggles that we faced during the early resettlement years. The Hmong community faced many issues, obviously, because we're moving in a foreign environment, and all these struggles and obstacles made us have to endure and maintain our family bonds, our culture, and our faith. Some of these struggles include having to learn a new language, the English language, which is very difficult for the Hmong people because the English language is Latinized. Meanwhile, the Hmong language is not Latinized. So it's a tough hurdle for them. Finding job opportunities to help our families. So even with all of the resources and support we gained from our sponsors and the government, it was still not enough just by itself. Another issue was being separated from our extended family because many Hmong villages, everyone was very tight-knit. You could go next door, you could see your cousins, your auntie, your uncle. That was no longer the case in America. We were all split across the country, mostly in the Midwest and California. Another big issue was racism and xenophobia because the Hmong community are immigrants. They weren't exactly accepted right away, and pre-established communities didn't like that. They just have an entirely different group of people in their community. They aren't really well-versed in English, and they struggled with them. But over time, we adapted to that, and we have our own communities across the country too. And I want to speak about a struggle that's not really talked about in the Hmong community because it's a sensitive and sore topic, which is our gang involvement. So during the early settlement years, many young men in the Hmong community, they were facing obviously racism and xenophobia from men their age. And because of this, they felt as if they weren't safe. And also, they didn't feel like they were enough because it's an entirely different ball field now. They can't go farm. They have to learn English, but they also don't feel like they're enough for their family. And so they had to resort to joining gangs such as the Blood, Crips, and eventually forming a Hmong gang called the Monsters of Destruction, or I believe it's called the Menace of Destruction in the modern day. And this is a stain on the past of many Hmong men. And fortunately, most of them have moved on from then, but it's still a sensitive topic, and especially in my family, because many of my Hmong relatives, they were involved in gangs, but they think that it's a dark area in their past, and even now it's still a very tender spot to touch on. And that's all from my slide, and I'll be introducing my colleague Yulia Lee. She'll be teaching some of you Hmong in a very tough Hmong tongue twister.
Thank you, Fuchi. So before we get into this tongue twister activity, why should we even learn about Hmong? We should learn about Hmong because when the Hmong came here to America, they had to learn English. But we should learn about Hmong too because it's a really beautiful and strong language, and it's a bedrock of our Hmong community. So before we go into our tongue twister, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to kind of say like the gist of the tone markers, or in our Hmong language we call it ki shua. So I'm going to be reciting through the tone markers first, and then I could kind of give you guys some tips and tricks on how to say it. So for the highest tone marker that we have, it's the letter B, it's di xia. And then we have M, di nia. We have J, di du. V, di gu. S, di mu. G, di ning. And then D, di da. And we also have another tone marker which isn't on the chart. It's di o, because that's kind of like our neutral kind of tone marker. Okay, so who's ready to say some tone markers? Okay, so for di xia, I kind of think of it as like an like kind of screaming, you know? So di xia is S-I-A-B, the S is the sh and the ia. So if you guys could recite with me, di xia. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. And then we have the M, di nia, and the English translation for nia is mom, and in a way, in my kind of perspective, that's kind of how you say the nia kind of tone marker too. So mom, nia, so di nia. And then we have din du. I kind of compare the tone marker to flute, like kind of that high, sharp kind of tone. So din du. And then we have di gu. I compare this one to blue, kind of like that ooh and roller coaster kind of sound. So di gu. And we have S, di mu. I just use the cow sound, moo. Yeah, it's kind of the same sound, so di mu. And then we have di ning. It's kind of like a breathier sound. Like I use like kind of like try cough, like a cough out, like ning, like, you know, kind of way. So di ning. And then we have the last one, di da. I just said like a roller coaster, or like when you get a realization, oh, like a ah, you know. So di da. And that's pretty much all our tone markers. And then for our tongue twister, which says, I'll say it first, and then I'll help you guys do it. The tongue twister is tu tu ta tu 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 ta te. And that pretty much, it's really easy. No, I'm just kidding. The translation for this tongue twister is, the boy there went to hold the leader's hand. So for the first word, tu, you know, the jimu kind of tone marker, the cow sound. So tu. And then tu, the highest tone marker, tu. And then for the third word, to. Mm-hmm. And then to. To. Tu. To. To. That was easy for you guys, huh? And then last one, te. Yep. So together it's tu tu to 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 te. Okay. Anybody want to try it? You can go slowly. It doesn't really matter. You guys don't have to stay at the same pace as me. Anybody want to volunteer and try it out? Maybe some of our alumni over here. Some of our alumni.
Guys, I'm a little nervous. Okay, can you give me a countdown? 3, 2, 1. I was getting there. I got it.
That was fun, right? Yeah? And then can we go to the next slide? Yeah. For now, we're going to be going to cultural transitions. I chose the main three, or the big three, that I believe we should be talking about. So for the first one, it's the presented with new resources and opportunities in America. When the Hmong community and the Hmong people came into the U.S., we were introduced with modern technology in the U.S. And with that, we were able to kind of adapt and use that to our advantage and kind of host and kind of promote our own events and organizations that we now hold. For example, in the Hmong New Year, which we annually hold every year. And actually, tomorrow is the Milwaukee Hmong New Year at the State Fair Center Park or something like that. Sorry. And yeah, pretty much we're able to use those technologies to our advantage. You know, kind of post videos online about Hmong food, Hmong music, and showcase our pride. And then the second cultural transition, we have branching off from traditional gender roles and lifestyle. Kind of like what Ava and Bunjai's interviews are saying, the Hmong, like the newer Hmong generations are now kind of prioritizing education instead of like the traditional, oh yeah, go get married, you know, have a good life, have kids. So like in this picture, the Hmong moms learning English while their children are being tutored from the Wausau Daily Herald. They're pretty much prioritizing education, and with that, the gender roles are kind of switching from the traditional, like, oh yeah, women are doing domestic roles, like cleaning and cooking and taking care of the kids, or the men are kind of like, you know, hunting, providing, protecting even. So yeah, and like now we kind of see how women and men's roles are kind of switched now, with the men kind of like, you can see the women providing and working, and then sometimes even the men are staying at home and taking care of the children. And then for the third cultural transition, I believe Bunjai's video touched on this. It was the increased conversion to Christianity. Coming to the U.S., many of the Hmong people started to convert to Christianity as it was like the U.S.'s religion. And that kind of like created a bridge, or like kind of a division between the Hmong people that believed in Christianity and the Hmong people that believed in shamanism. And there's like a lot of conflicts going on. It's still happening, but then with the help of like, you know, the perseverance of Hmong people still kind of like practicing shamanism, and those that even believe in both Christianity and shamanism and trying to connect the two, shamanism is still like persevering and hopefully going strong for many, many years forward. And like, why should we even learn about these? Well, it's because like even it kind of shows how in the Hmong community, even when we were put in a new situation, a harsher situation, we were able to persevere and strive and excel. And I think it's important to kind of highlight those kind of events, and also highlight some of the important figures that kind of contributed to this and the U.S. So to talk about those figures, I'm going to be passing it on to my friend Ashley Vang.
Thank you, Yulia. So as Yulia said, my name is Ashley Vang, and also as Yulia has said, there have been a lot of disparities and problems that the Hmong people have been facing for the past few years ever since they resettled here. However, I would like to touch on and talk about the Hmong accomplishments and the Hmong achievements that they have achieved here. Just to be able to start this off, have you guys heard of Sunisa Lee? Can you raise your hand if you have? Yay, good. Okay, so that's my point. Sunisa Lee is one of our key leaders in the Hmong community, in the untraditional sense that like she isn't really a clan leader, but she has shown our younger generation that we can achieve our dreams. And also she's brought a lot of recognition to the Hmong community. As we all saw, like a lot of us have seen that. She's the first Hmong American Olympic gymnast, and she's also an all-rounder gold medalist. Next, we have Kao Clea Yang, who's an accomplished Hmong American author. She's created a variety of different books. So you may see some picture books for her younger Hmong generation audience. And we also have a memoir about her that was about and for her grandmother. That's for her older audience. Next, we have Dr. Chris Herjong, who's the first Hmong American MPS or Milwaukee Public School institution and community teacher. She's also founded Hmong American Peace Academy, which is where we're all from, which is a school in Milwaukee. So some background on the Milwaukee school HAPA. It actually started in 2004, and it's our oncoming 20th, almost 21st anniversary. It's first started with around 200 students, but as 20 years have passed, there have been around 2,000 and plus more on the waiting list. So that just shows like how much HAPA is needed in our community, because it brings all of our community members and our younger generation together to learn more about our Hmong culture. As we have Hmong dual enrollment classes here that we partner with UW Milwaukee to learn more about our culture and our language. Oh, and instruments as well. And then we also have Kashua Christy Yang, who is the first Hmong judge nationally, and she was also the first Hmong judge in Wisconsin area. And then also we have Joe B. Zhang, who actually did research on him, and he was actually one of the first, not one of the first, but one of the many 12-year-old soldiers in the Vietnam War. And he is also the first Hmong American police officer here in Wisconsin, which is pretty cool. And he is also an Eau Claire, he served as an Eau Claire city council member, and he became an advocate for the Hmong community. So here, the picture on the left is actually participants of the Chu Chow Vang Center. And I know that they help with the elderly and also the mentally challenged people in the Hmong community. He's actually my uncle, so I know that they do like painting nights, they do like, here, painting nights. They do bingo nights. They just have a lot of resources for our Hmong people. We also have here on the right a picture of our HAPA seniors, yay, at the UW-Madison trip. This is most of our seniors here, and I just put this picture because I wanted to show that like we are the future, like we are here to, that's why we're here. You know, we're the future, we're our leaders in our community, and we want to show you that Hmong education is important. Okay, thank you guys. So now we're gonna be opening up the floor for a few questions from you guys. Thanks. You guys can raise your hand, please.
Thank you all for just an amazing presentation. You guys are so incredible. I'm just wondering about your experiences with Asian American history and identity in your own school. I know that HAPA might be a little bit different, but can you talk to me about like the experiences you have, both positive and maybe also some negative experiences? So I'd love to hear that.
Thank you for your question, and I would be happy to answer that. So, as you know, we all came from HAPA, and we all grew up in a relatively like close Hmong community. And for my personal experience, I think that growing up at HAPA has really like shown me what it was like to feel Hmong, because I actually immigrated here through sponsorships. So it was a very tough process, but then with last names being so prevalent in the Hmong community, there are many like common last names such as Vangs, Yangs, and yet here I was the only, for me at least, in the early years, I was the only king. So at first I didn't feel like I was Hmong American, but as I learned more from our dual enrollment classes, I learned that I was still Hmong. I was still Hmong American, and I still had many identities that I could resonate with. So being at HAPA has really like helped me feel like my Hmongness.
It's Lydia again. Thank you for your question. So I've actually been attending Hmong American Peace Academy for all 14 years. So I've been there since kindergarten. And I can remember that we did have Hmong classes like since kindergarten, elementary, middle school, and high school. However, it was kind of like patchy. We had like different Hmong teachers like trying to teach Hmong language and Hmong history, and it was really hard because we didn't have like a set curriculum. Like sometimes we would learn about Hmong history, but we wouldn't go in depth with it because, you know, it was hard to find resources for it. And especially like teaching it to like literal 9-year-olds. We don't understand like the concepts of like Hmong history and like the depths of it. I do remember learning about Hmong language in middle school, and it was really hard because growing up as a Hmong American, I didn't really get to connect with my language as much. But I think that from middle school through high school, because high school has that UWM dual enrollment Hmong language and history class, the Hmong language has actually helped me like being able to communicate with my family members, and also just being able to understand my Hmong and like just like where our history comes from. So that's my experience at HAPA.
Hi there, my name is Natalie, and to also answer your question, so in the beginning, I actually was at HAPA for a couple years during my elementary, but I left to an MPS school, Milwaukee Public School, for 3 years and actually came back. And I guess from that perspective, I could kind of say that like during the MPS school, all I knew is that I was Hmong, and I couldn't really resonate with anyone else because Hmong was so like little in the like Milwaukee public schools that like I couldn't really like I guess share any challenges that I had. But I feel like coming back to HAPA, I definitely like understood my culture and my languages more, and I just felt like I needed to share that because like coming from like I guess schools that don't really have like or you could learn about your culture, you don't really know much about yourself, and especially like since both my parents were like first Hmong Americans, so they were born in the U.S. So I guess you could say I'm second generation. It was kind of hard like learning that like full traditional Hmong. So yeah.
Hi, my name is Tyson again. To answer your question, I actually was raised here in Madison, so I went to like almost a white school here, and then I moved to HAPA like during my sophomore year, and I was like immersed in this like ginormous like culture, like being like told like, oh, you're Hmong, and but then like having all my peers say, what's your last name? Like I'm Hmong Pa. And the Hmong Pa community, the clan, is like very not well known. It's very short, very small, and I was just being told like, oh, like I've never heard of that last name before. So I felt Viet. I searched it up and I felt like a Viet person because that's what it said. But connecting through my dual enrollment classes and learning more about the Hmong culture, I was able to understand my own identity, and it helped me out like figuring out who I am and like connect more with my peers, understand more about my cultural background, which was really difficult coming from like an all-white school. So thank you.
If I heard right, you guys are all seniors, right? As you guys graduate, you guys will no longer be in a Hmong community. How will you guys demonstrate your Hmong culture and yourself outside of that? And being the only Hmong within like a whole entire community, let's say like here in Madison, predominantly white, how will you demonstrate your culture within that?
Something that I'm actually really passionate about is being able to share our culture with people, which is why I'm a part of like being here today. So something that I'm really passionate about, like I said, is being able to share this culture. So I know that a lot of schools, universities offer like Asian organizations. So like I know that UWM Milwaukee has a lot of different like Asian cultural groups. They're able to share cuisine like we will with you guys in a little bit. They also share like different kinds of clothing that we have on here. They also do their own kind of version of our Hmong New Year, which again is happening tomorrow in Milwaukee. And I'm just really excited to be able to go and share my culture with different people, because I know that not everybody knows who the Hmong people are. And so, you know, even if I'm being thrown into a pool of like white people or other people from other kind of ethnicities or different cultures, you know, that's something that I really want to point out, is that the Hmong people do exist and we are a great community.
So thank you so much for your amazing presentation. It seems like you all feel very validated and affirmed going to HAPA in your cultural identities. And so I wonder what advice you might give to schools that have a very small Asian Hmong population in their student body or in their teacher staff. What advice would you give to them to make sure that all students feel valued and affirmed at school?
Thank you for your question. To answer your question, I can sort of relate to students who are Hmong but not in a big Hmong community at school, because I was in their position. To K4 to fourth grade, I grew up in a predominantly black school, and then I moved to a predominantly white school. So I can understand how they feel. The biggest like advice I can give them is like, you are Hmong. Like no matter what anyone says, you are Hmong. Like it's like even if you don't feel like you're Hmong, you always have to remind yourself like, I am Hmong. Like my ancestors, they gave a lot for me to get here, and like even if you don't know the language, don't let that hold you down. I don't know my language that good either. Because the moment that they start doubting their cultural identity as a Hmong person, they have to keep on reaffirming themselves, like, no matter what anyone says, I am Hmong, I have to be proud of it. It's something to be proud of. And there's always better things to come. And even if there's not a lot of Hmong people around you, there's always your family to turn to. And you don't have to feel as if you're alone. And that even if you are maybe the one Hmong person in a big school of other cultures, you are Hmong, and you can rep that you're Hmong. And it's like, you're the one Hmong person in a big school, you can be like, I'm that guy.
I'm Jaya Lee, and unlike Puchi here, I was actually in all Hmong, not in all Hmong, but like Hmong American Peace Academy. I've been here since K4, so I wouldn't really understand how it feels like to actually be in a school where I was alone. So whoever is like in a school where it's predominantly like white or black or even Hispanic, I would say that you are very brave, because it's hard to even fit in those groups because you're so different. But at the same time, my advice would be to value yourself, and that if you really want to learn more about your culture and your ethnicity, is to yearn and actually to crave for that learning, and to like search it up yourself and to actually learn about it, so then you could value and accept yourself more.
Hello, my name is Kenji Feng, and I do agree with what you said, but like one thing that I grew up struggling a lot in Cali, especially coming from like a school full of diversity, one thing that I really struggled with was really trying to find like the group of people that knew me and kind of understood like what language I spoke. And it was something that was really hard. Even it was something that I've reached out to my parents, but then never really got an answer to it. So then, the fact about searching it up and trying to look for who I am wasn't a thing, because there is so much cultures and diversity and races in our, tiny world. So then it was something that was really hard for me to kind of get used to, because it was something that bothered me as a kid growing up, not really knowing who I was, and me trying to match myself with other people, even though that didn't really work, because people end up telling me, what race are you?
I could speak from a teacher's point of view and say that in the state of Wisconsin, even in a school with little to no Hmong people or educators who could teach Hmong history or Hmong education to fidelity, there are a lot of resources here in this state. There are a lot of great organizations that are out there and willing to help and to give resources to schools that would want it. Any of the students here and alumni who have gone to Hmong American Peace Academy would be more than willing to be that resource for students out there. We just have to get the word and say, hey, we have students who are willing to connect with you. Don't feel like you are alone, because you're not. We have students here. Okay. Thank you for all of your audience questions.